everybody, and welcome back to the WTF1 podcast post-season review. We are finally at that time of the year where we have nothing else to talk about, so we have to look into the past to review what on earth went on in the 2022 season. I know some of you may not want to go back there. I am one of those people that does not want to reflect on what went on as a Leclerc fanboy. But before we hear from Tom Bellingham and Katy Fairman, I want to say that this podcast is once again sponsored by Elgato, our season-long partners, and the season has now ended, but they're still here, making us definitely sound like professionals and look like one too. So thank you so much for sponsoring this podcast, Elgato, for the entire season with all of your amazing equipment. Now, Tom Bellingham, Katy Fairman, how are we both? 1 week now into no Formula One action. Are we still sane?
Yeah, it's good.
Debatable if I was saying beforehand, to be honest, but
True.
That's why a lot of people tune in.
Yeah, it's gone quite quick already. I think before we know it, we'll be in testing, and we'll see if we get another shake-up.
97 days to go.
You're not counting?
Nope, definitely look that up before the podcast. And that's less than 100, so that doesn't feel like a long time now. And you said, Tommy, after the World Cup's done, it's about a month till car launches and stuff, no?
Yeah, exactly.
We're flying. We're absolutely flying. Right, so let's get into a 3-word race review. We're not going to do a huge amount because, well, it's a season review, isn't it? Not a race review.
Sorry, Ron Burgundy.
Tommy's done a Ron Burgundy for me there and put that in the sheet. 3-word season review. At least I worked it out on the spot. Yeah. Aaron _W01. New regulations work. Do we agree? Yes, I do agree, actually. I feel like when you actually look at the cars and how they handled when racing, especially within 1 second, it was an improvement. I think, Tommy, you came out with a stat a few races ago saying that it was about 25% more overtakes
30%
this year,
according
30%,
to Pirelli.
boom, than last year, which statistically tells us that it has worked. I know a lot of people argue that or feel like the regulations were there purely to close the gap. And don't get me wrong, I feel like obviously there was an intention to make the teams closer. But then if you look back, I suppose, in other regulation changes, some teams get it right, some teams get it wrong. And this is the first year of a phase of years with these new regulations. So to have a couple of teams that got it really right isn't exactly the most crazy thing in the world. But the main regulation reason was to allow them to battle more and to be able to go for more than one lap. And I think that was the crucial thing. I think Saudi Arabia sticks in my head as one of those races where even though there was a pass, they were still within 1 second and they were still fighting, and then there was more battles. And yeah, I can't say, as much as it was a shame to not see midfield teams scoring podiums and stuff, but that's more down the performance side. When we're looking just at overtaking, battling, I think it definitely was a step forward.
no, I mean, I was really pessimistic when we had these new regulations. I was thinking, let's be honest, how much is it really going to shake things up? But as soon as we got to Bahrain, like the first race, obviously Mercedes had their struggles, which I was like, I know Lewis still finished on the podium, but I was thinking, they say every year in testing, we've got a little problem, and then they come and absolutely wipe the field. But that we saw like Haas, like their improvement this year has been amazing, partly as a result of these new regulations. And as you say, we saw more battling. It wasn't just a case of, person A is going to overtake person B and then that's it. Like it would be, okay, well then they're going to come back in the next corner or the next lap. And yeah, I think that the new regulations have worked really well. And I've enjoyed the amount of racing that we've seen this year, both at front, in the middle, and at the back of the pack as well.
Yeah, there's been, I think the people that maybe have just started watching Formula One were spoilt massively last year with the title battle we saw, which we may not see again for years. A battle that good that goes down to the final race with equal points, it rarely happens. I think the time before it happened last year was like in the 70s or something where they were exactly level. So it is a rare occurrence. And I think there was a confusion that the new regulations were there to shake it up and that kind of thing. But actually the regulations were there to make racing better, and there were more overtakes. You could follow a lot closer. I think there were so many times where I remember watching, and it's easy to get lost in the fact that maybe the season wasn't as exciting overall. But you look at some of the moments where you think there's absolutely no way that last year cars would have been able to follow that closely. And like, I remember at the start of the season, one of the reviews we had was from Saudi, and it was about battles lasting longer. Like you say, because when someone got past with DRS, you could follow and then you'd overtake again. And there was a few moments I was reminded of this because someone shared it. I completely forgot about it. It was a moment in Austria where the entire, I think there was about 5 cars from 5 different teams. There was a McLaren, an Alpine, a Haas, and you rarely ever see Formula One cars that close for the last few years, just because it's been far too hard to follow. And they were just switching positions every single corner. It was incredible. And equally, Silverstone, I think, was a great example of the new regulations, that some of the best racing we've ever seen. So in terms of racing, yes, and it puts us in a better, at the end of the day, yes, the regulations haven't made it closer, but that was never the what it was designed for. That will come naturally through the budget cap and teams getting on top of the new regulations, and it will get closer. There's always someone that does it and ends up miles ahead. So yes, I would agree.
Good. Oh, what a positive sentiment that was.
Yes.
Lots of overtakes to talk about. Toby F1MU comes in with the question. 2022 had more overtakes than 2021, but who, in your opinion, had the best overtake of the season and why? Question to the panel and Twitter. Would love to see some highlights on this thread. Now, I might come across as a fanboy.
Shall I say it first so you know?
Go on.
Charles Leclerc around the outside of Hamilton at Copse, no question. Not even a debate.
Insane overtake on old tyres as well, was it not? Let's talk about the full context here. This was sitting duck territory, right? This was when we thought it was all over, and Charles Leclerc just was a bit of a beast. There is no other overtake that comes even close. There were some big moments. Obviously, the through goes Hamilton thing was probably the most spine-tingling one. Was it the best move? No. I mean, Hamilton literally just drove past whilst Perez was shoving Leclerc off the road. So, But yeah, Leclerc's move around the outside at Copse was, I mean, the camera angle was one of the worst camera angles of the year because we didn't really see it, did we? We were just like, oh, he's done it. But yeah, Leclerc for me.
Yeah, definitely. Leclerc, I think a few honourable mentions. I saw someone in the chat say Vettel around the outside of Magnussen at yes. Koto was a great move. And shout out to Zhou Guanyu that was completely missed on the Abu Dhabi coverage. His move around the outside. I know he was on fresher tyres, but you don't see many moves into that new corner at Abu Dhabi. A few people tried it and couldn't get anywhere near. And on the last, I think it was the last lap, Zhou Guanyu goes around the outside of Alex Albon, very brave, outbreaks him, goes around the outside. It's a beautiful move. But for me, Charles is clear.
Yeah, that is a sexy overtake. I'm going to give an honourable mention to Esti Besti for his double overtakes at Spa. Don't roll your eyes at me.
Of course you are. Well, any reason to bring Esti Besti into this?
That's true. Did you see, actually?
I forgot about that one. Yeah, that was good.
It was good, right?
Did he do a double? Did he do double overtakes?
Twice,
I think he did twice.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah.
And I made my 3-word race review, yes, the Esti Besti or something.
Oh, yeah,
like
that was it.
But off topic of the overtake, did you see that he replied to a comment on Instagram and said, "You okay, hun?" And loads of people tagged me in it and was like, "Oh my god, it's just two worlds colliding with Esteban Ocon." And
wait, what was he replying to?
Lando Norris or something.
Oh,
but yeah, I was like, wow, he's learned well. But anyway, so yeah, Esteban Ocon and his double overtake was really good. And then yeah, I would say Kota with Vettel and Magnussen. There was also, well, it depends like how you want to define the overtakes, but like the DRS chicken that Max and Charles were playing in Saudi was crazy and all that kind of stuff.
Mad,
so
wasn't it?
Yeah, that seems like a lifetime ago though.
Yeah, that was a good time when Leclerc was leading the world title and
it was over.
Yeah, it was over. Even I don't want Leclerc to win with 8 races to go. Yeah, never tweeting that ever again. Even if Leclerc has a 200-point lead, I am never Jeez, what have I done? But yes, there were some very decent overtakes. I think, yeah, I don't want to I think Leclerc definitely was number one, but I would put Vettel's move very close to number two, to be fair. I don't think Leclerc's actually as clear as I remember watching that onboard from Vettel when he was absolutely on the edge of grip, and everything going round the outside then was sensational. So, Vettel comes a very close runner-up, but still Leclerc. Katy, what's your three-word season review, please?
Oh, needed it again.
Yeah.
So I had to go for an FIA one, didn't I? Because I couldn't not. So I've gone for not much better, which is a season review, which is pretty sad, to be honest, because obviously we had Michael Massey depart the role of race director. That was a huge storyline over the winter break last year. And we came into 2022 and the FIA decided to go for a slightly different approach. So they hired two race directors, which would take all the pressure off one person, which is what we thought. But actually, it was just that they would alternate the role between races. So there was still all the pressure on one person at each race, but it just changed from race to race or whatever. And that kind of didn't really work out, because then the consistency side of things was still relevant, because they might have said, okay, well, Niels Vittage said 2 weekends ago that we could do this, but now, Eduardo's saying actually we can't. And so there was still a consistency issue. And in the end, they just stuck with Niels and he did the final few races. But there was just still so many moments of, as we said, like inconsistency, whether that's awarding penalties or what people can get away with. We had mess up still in qualifying. I think it was Checo in Austria off the top of my head, where, he had that whole deleted lap time and then it wasn't, and then it just was so messy. And it seems as though the season's gone on. I mean, can talk about the freaking recovery truck in Japan, for goodness sake. Like, that was just a sickening moment. But I had really high hopes that we could come into 2022 with these new regulations, a sort of overhaul in the FIA. We had a new FIA president this year as well. And it just feels like the relationship between the FIA and Formula One is more fragile than we've ever seen it before. And I know that there have been murmurs throughout the season so far that perhaps that there could be sort of a rebellion with the F1 teams and the FIA not wanting to sort of be under that banner of the FIA anymore. Whether that will happen, who actually knows? It might just be chatter. But yeah, I'm a bit sad that it feels like the FIA hasn't taken this opportunity to sort of build themselves and make themselves stronger. And instead we finish a season with maybe not the same sort of controversy that we had finishing Abu Dhabi last year, but still there's just a bit of a sour taste in everyone's mouth, and that it feels it's not quite as good as we know it can be.
I think realistically, when we look at this year and look at all the mistakes that have happened and whatnot, it's clear to see that Michael Massey wasn't the problem. Now, Michael Massey was the problem in terms of Abu Dhabi, specifically in 2021 and how that all went about. But the actual structure within the FIA clearly has not changed from last year. Not like they've promised the restructuring, the Formula One VAR and all of this stuff, the football video assistant referee type thing that they said they were going to introduce. All this stuff to allow for more consistent stewarding hasn't happened. Now, I don't know whether it's a lack of funding or whatever, but for me, Michael Massey was, I guess, a bit of a scapegoat for last year in the sense of like, he is at fault for everything last year. But we moved to this year. We've had two race directors, which they alternate rather than I thought they were going to be together.
They were going to share the role, and I was like, that makes so much more sense.
Yeah. But instead they were alternating, which still for me is one race director, and therefore what's the difference? If anything, you then have a lack of consistency between the two. So there's so many things that obviously we've touched upon over the year. As you say, corner cutting, track limits, sending out tractors, inconsistent penalties. They just clearly don't have enough resource to cover Formula One, and 20 drivers doing, you have to monitor them, because they will take the mickey. That's like clear to see.
You just got to keep an eye on them all the time.
100%. And if they're getting away with, I think some of the drivers said that some people get caught, some people don't for track limits in qualifying. That shouldn't be the case. Just Yeah, okay. If they're lacking money, they need to find more money. They need to be talking to Formula One and go, look, if you want us to police this properly, we need more people, more eyeballs to really assess this, because it's not good enough. It really isn't, because if we have another close championship fight and then we get these inconsistencies, it just brings the whole reputation of the sport again into question. So they were lucky that it was a bit of a clean sweep this year.
Yeah, I think they've definitely been saved from controversy. The fact that there was never a title fight, and the reason that, like you say, Massey was so controversial with the screw up was the fact that, you know, decided a world championship. And you think after that huge screw up and scandal, basically, that they'd fix things, and it doesn't look like it's any better. It shows that Formula One is an extremely hard kind of sport to manage, because it's a lot of the things aren't clear cut. You know, even us guys argue sometimes between decisions and what we think's right. And no doubt, you know, look at Abu Dhabi with the whole Sainz Hamilton thing. Some people say no, it was a fair move. Some people say it's not a fair move. So like that stuff, you can understand that you're never going to please everyone. But little things, I say little things, massive things, like screwing up the world championship decider, even though it was early, but like, you know, Max being crowned champion, he was going to get crowned champion extremely early, and just how they messed that up. It was just like, how have you done this again? It was shocking, really.
Twitch chat have just blessed me because they saw me sneeze on mute. So thank you, Twitch chat. We are live on Twitch, WTF1 official, if you don't follow us already. But yes, FIA. What? Okay, let's put a question out there. What? Especially you, Katy, you sleep with the rule book. What would you change? How would you make the structure better from a fan FIA perspective?
I would have the role of race director shared between more people, not just one person at a race weekend. I mean, crikey, the amount of times that, like, I've seen something like a, I don't know, incident on the TV, and I've sat and talked with my brother, and he's gone, well, actually, I see it in this way, you see it in that way. Like, sometimes it's not as just clear cut. Like, I know everyone has opinions, but sometimes, guess what? Your opinion can change on something when you get given more information, or you see things in a different way. And so I think by having maybe a team of three, not suggesting us three, because crikey, that would just be mayhem.
Here we go.
But
Leclerc does not deserve that penalty. No, absolutely not. In fact, give him 50 more world championship points. Thank you.
Yeah, well,
and you'll be like, Esty Bestie needs to win the world title.
Esty Bestie gets to go through the tunnel every lap and win the race by 10 minutes. No, I think, yeah, sharing that role is a really important thing and a step. Better communication. I know we spoke about that as well throughout, you know, this whole issue with Max winning the championship, and everyone like, has he won? Hasn't he won? Like, not even Max knew. The FIA official on the ground knew and said, yeah, this is legit, you've won it. But that should be also, there should be somebody that's relating that with the commentary teams, the journalists. I know that there's the argument, well, you know, people should be doing their own research and should know the rule book as well. But just having that one person that can pop things in a chat to be like, oh, by the way, if Leclerc gets this penalty, then Max will win, you know, this kind of thing. And yeah, I don't know, maybe getting a actual former racing driver within the race director team or something like that.
Sebastian Vettel for the head of FIA, is that what you're saying? Absolutely.
I wouldn't be against it, I'll say that much. But then I do understand that people are conflicted with getting a permanent racer there, because you might be like, well, they might have bias without even realizing it and that kind of thing. So yeah, either way, the FIA is always going to be a really tricky path to navigate. But it is frustrating because the FIA, I know I rant about them all the time, but it's like split into so many different elements. There's obviously the stewarding and all that kind of stuff, but the amount that the FIA does for the safety in our sport, like, is just incredible. And I feel kind of bad that, you know, every week I seem to come on here and moan and complain about that, but at the end of the day, I'm still so grateful for everything that the FIA does, because without them, you know, we could be in a really, really awful situation with maybe some incidents we've had this year. Like, they're always paving the way for safety in our sport, and I will never not be incredibly grateful for them for that. But it's just a shame that like the stewarding side of things is often where people's mind go when they go to FIA rather than the other amazing work that they do. So,
and of course, putting a tractor on the track. That was something that, they will hopefully never do again for the safety of our sport. But I completely get it. They are always taking steps forward, learning from incidents. And, they have processes where if someone has a big crash, they'll always assess it and whatnot. So, they have done a lot of things right. I think as well, we are well within our right to complain when the sport isn't run probably as optimally as it should, especially with F1 being the pinnacle of motorsport. Tommy, any other thoughts from you, mate? You look like you're really pondering something.
No, it was kind of, I think Katie's summed it up quite well. For me, I don't even think it's the like 50. I can't personally complain about the 50-50 decisions and things that, some people get it right. It's a difficult sport to manage, a lot more difficult than other things. It is the stuff like, Japan was the biggest low in terms of things they did. It was shocking how they managed to one with obviously the worst of it was the tractor on the track, but then also just to completely balls up another moment where the title was decided is just not great.
No, but hey, what a great season. Moving on. Oh, here we go.
Speaking of what a great season.
Tommy, why don't you do your 3-word race review then? I wonder what it's going to be about.
I wonder what yours is about. Mine is Verstappen, different league. Sorry, Matt. Cover your ears now. I mean, it's been an incredible year for Verstappen. I didn't think we'd be here after... what was it, Australia, when he had the 2 DNFs, was a long way behind in the title. And I can't believe we're sat here with him. He won the title by nearly 150 points, got 15 wins.
Anything else?
Anything?
You have to keep going.
Keep going.
Do we need your record books?
How many polls?
Yeah. But for me, I think it will look back as one of the seasons where Verstappen really put himself in a category of the very best in Formula One, and people say it's far too early, and I would agree to put him extremely high up in the season, but he's got a car now to deliver. I would argue that it's not an extremely dominant car. It's a very good car, don't get me wrong, and I'm not here to argue that it's not the best car, but I think what Verstappen did this year was extremely impressive. And I think a lot of the drives were very different. And I think that's where he stepped up his game for me. Some would argue that it's because he wasn't racing Lewis Hamilton, which we saw in Brazil, how he raced Hamilton. But there were things like at Spa, for example, I've never seen a win from 14th look so easy. And in previous seasons, Verstappen would have tried to dive up the inside at turn 1, make as many positions up at the start, probably burn his tyres out. And he was just measured and calculated. Equally, Mexico was another race, underrated really, that he was just managing that consistency. And we saw another side to Verstappen that I just think is extremely impressive. And to get 15 wins in a season, regardless of how long the kind of how many races there are now, it's still a percentage that's not too far off. Vettel in 2013 and Schumi in 2004 or 2. I can't remember which one it was.
2004.
Yeah. Just
still the highest percentage.
Matt's got the tattoo on his back. So.
Still the highest percentage.
But, very, very impressive.
Yes, absolutely outrageous. I joke, Leclerc fanboy and whatever, but the harsh reality has been that if Verstappen has a good car, there is very little people in the world that can beat him on his day. He has that relentless consistency that we've seen Hamilton have over the years as well in the Mercedes. Very, very few errors, both from himself and also from the team. It was just such a bulletproof outfit this year. The fact that Singapore happened and there was a disaster in qualifying, everyone was up in arms about it. Max was up in arms about it because it never, ever happens. And yet look at the reaction he had when it did happen. Some people say it was out of order, but, he demands the absolute best from his team. And he's very much got that entire team sort of whipped into shape. Ferrari, on the other hand, I'm sure we can get into at a later date in this podcast. But yeah, Max has been sensational. Definitely the best driver of the year. His way of driving against Charles, and I will not hear anything else, is very different to how he drives Lewis Hamilton. There is a different level of respect there. Hamilton and Verstappen, we don't really need to talk about it too much because they didn't really race that much this year. But when they did, they crashed. And it's insane to think that those two just, and it's not just one or the other, it's both. They're both willing to just, if we make contact. Whereas Leclerc and Verstappen at the start of the year, they were essentially at each side of the track, giving each other the largest amount of space you could possibly think. And it was just clean, almost too measured racing. It was like, oh, come on, guys, a little bit of a wheel bang here and there would be nice.
You, sir.
But it was incredibly respectful racing. But look, you can dive into the psychology behind that all you want. But yeah, I feel like maybe the learnings as a Leclerc fan, as we'll get into shortly, is that there needs to be a bit more of an edge to Leclerc's racing, in my opinion. And of course, he kind of learned that originally when he was pushed off in Austria and lost the win to Verstappen then. But yeah, back to Max, unreal, too good. Hope he's not as good next year, because otherwise it could be a few years of pain for anyone other than a Red Bull fan.
Anyone other than Tommy. Without just echoing what you guys have said, this is a proper classic year. Like, we'll look back, I think, when Verstappen retires, which might not actually be that far away. He's saying, once his contract runs out at the end of 28, that maybe that's it. Like, we just won't do another one. So he'd be 31 then. We'll probably look back at 2022 and be like, yeah, do you remember how dominant he was that year? And we do that, like you say, with people like Schumacher and Vettel and stuff, and it seems crazy to think that we have just witnessed that season, like it's just gone by in such a flash. But no, he was just totally in another league. I mean, somebody did say in the chat, which is also true, let me see if I can find your name, Jolie said that Max did make errors, which is true. You mentioned Singapore, obviously the qualifying wasn't great because of this not having enough fuel. But throughout the race, he made a few mistakes here and there. He dropped back at the start. And then, when he was trying to overtake Norris, ended up having a huge lockup going down an escape road. Spain had that mysterious gust of wind at the start of the race, which sent him into the gravel trap, which Carlos Sainz also had. And yeah, there are a few others dotted around, but they are rare. And the other thing is that when something did go wrong, apart from obviously in Bahrain and in Australia, he was like most of the time able to recover it back. So yeah, Max has just got this most insane.
That comment from Jolie is Max's errors this season: Hungary, Singapore, and Spain, and he won 2 of those races, which is crazy. Yeah, because he spun in Hungary.
A 23 race season. He's had a couple of spins and a big lockup. And you're like, well, he did make mistakes.
He did go off in FP3, and that's when you know that someone's been dominant, isn't it? When you see the people doing compilation videos, and it's a stretch to try and find things.
Very true. So yeah, well done to Max, because that was very dominant. And yeah, will his record of 15 wins in a season ever be beaten?
Yes, Leclerc next year, 16.
I was going to say Max next year.
Yeah, when there's a 40 race season in 6 years' time, yes, probably.
Yeah, that's true.
That's so true. Right, next question. Gene Nabben. Do you think Verstappen's season was less or more dominant than some of Hamilton's championships in the last couple of seasons? Max did win a lot of races, but he wasn't 30 plus seconds ahead of second place, as we have seen from Hamilton quite often. I wouldn't say it was as dominant as Hamilton, personally. I don't feel like the Red Bull was as clear as the Ferrari, as the Mercedes has been of other cars in seasons gone by. There always seemed to be something to kind of play for in a lot of the races, especially at the first half of the season. Ferrari were the quickest car, in my opinion. Of course, they tailed off. Tyre degradation was a big thing. But no, I wouldn't put Verstappen's season here. As much as he won the championship by an absolute gargantuan margin, the races weren't exactly a slam dunk every single time.
Yeah, no, I think it depends on whether you want to compare the guys as drivers or if we're including the machinery as well in there, because as you kind of mentioned, the Red Bull was very strong at certain parts of the season. But as we mentioned at the start of this, like it's new regulations, and maybe Red Bull had the advantage of building a car that was the better package than everyone else in the field. So that naturally made Max, like, gave him a bit of a pedestal, or no, that's the wrong word, but like a bit of a step up to the others and his competitors and stuff like that. But I don't know, it's tricky because when you say about more dominant or less dominant, like the big thing is the car, I would say, rather than the driver. So I'd say it's quite difficult to
Katy comes out and says Formula One is about the car, not the driver. Verstappen fans enraged.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it's quite unfair to compare the two. So I'm just going to sit on the fence and say that they both did a great job. And gold stars for you both, boys.
Yeah, it's, for me, the car wasn't as dominant as maybe a Mercedes that we've seen in, I want to say 2020 and the 2014 to 2016 era. It seemed more like one of those seasons where you could say maybe like a Hamilton season in 2018 where, you know, he's annihilated his teammate. He's been won a lot of races, wrapped up the title really early, and you would say that it's the best car of the season, but not absolutely hands down the best car of the season. So I'd compare it to something like that. Someone made an interesting point, WC Racing fan, that's saying about, you know, Max did win a lot of races, but he wasn't 30 seconds ahead of second place. Suzuka, when Max built a 28-second lead in a 27-minute race, was obviously one of the standout things. But I think a scary thing for a lot of non-Verstappen fans and just how the season went is the fact that that start of the season, it was quite clear that the car wasn't really suited to his driving style yet, and yet he won races. He was winning nowhere near as much as he was winning at the end. Like, the end was just ridiculous. I mean, he won almost every single race the last half of the season. But the fact that he was constantly saying, you know, the car's not there yet, it's more favored to Perez, yet he was there winning races and things and performing extremely well, which is a concern that I think we even said last year, and even in 2020, Max's consistency. Imagine what it's like, him getting a car that's capable of actually challenging for the world title, and this is it, winning by 150 points.
Yeah.
And it's very scary, his age and how much more years he's got ahead of him. Whether it's going to be a lot, we're yet to see. But yeah, scary.
Very scary indeed. Red Bull won the last 9 out of 10 races, despite Binotto saying, why couldn't we win all of the last 10 races? And Ferrari didn't win one.
Yeah, Mercedes got the other. So yeah, that incredibly badly aged quote, that.
Oh, dearie me. There's a lot of speculation, isn't there, about Binotto's future? Let's see if something comes of that in the coming days. Next question. Kian LFC 03. Everyone hated Vettel for how dominant he was in 2013. Now we praise it. Will it be the same for Max in this year, in 10 or so years? Personally, I think it will. I mean, yeah, unless you are a Verstappen fan that enjoys domination. Like when I was younger, I used to love a Schumi domination. I'd sit back, like 12 years old in 2004. Ah, dear, another Schumi masterclass. But yes, I think that the majority of people want to see close racing. And unless the majority of fans were Verstappen fans, who I don't think they are, there are 20 drivers on the grid. Everyone just wants to see close racing. They want to see a close fought championship, fights for P1. I think when you're in the moment, you're frustrated and you're like, God, why did he have to win by so much? Why couldn't it have been a level point decider going into the final race? But in 5-10 years, you go, wow, Verstappen was really good, wasn't he? 15 wins, blah, blah, blah. What an amazing thing. But did he get most poles? No. Charles Leclerc did. What a performance.
Just get that in somehow.
But yes, I think that Verstappen's performance this year was unbelievable, and people will praise it. They praise it now, but more people will praise it in the future when they're not in the moment of frustration.
Yeah, it's frustrating to watch. I mean, you mentioned Schumacher. That was probably some of my least enjoyable years watching Formula One. I didn't particularly dislike Schumacher. I just was bored of him dominating. And now I look back and I can watch highlights and go, oh my word, Michael Schumacher was one of, if not the best driver of all time. So you look now and but you look at that and it's incredible to watch now. But when you're living it, especially after we've just come off the back the season before, where it was incredibly close and we saw this incredible title fight, you totally understand why fans are a bit like, oh God. I mean, I mentioned it earlier, Verstappen won from 14th in Spa, and it was like the least surprising thing ever. I think all of us predicted that he would win the race in the prediction of him starting 14th. When does that ever happen? And yeah, it's just, we won't really look back on it fondly, non-Verstappen fans, until either he's retired or later down the line, and we go, that was such a superb season. Because at the end of the day, we're Formula One fans, we want to see great, exciting racing and close battles. So it's understandable, but that's just the way Formula One works.
It's true. And even with domination, like obviously Hamilton has come off the back of being so dominant these past few years. And then, well, I don't know if I can speak on behalf of all F1 fans, but certainly having them on the back foot this year, when there was the opportunity, I was rooting for a Hamilton or a Russell win, because it's something different, and it's so stupid to say, because we've just had Mercedes dominance and winning the Constructors' Championship 8 years in a row. And then there's a chance for me to be like, oh, come on, we might get Mercedes win. It might be something different. Like, come on, cheering Mercedes as the underdog. Like, it's just so daft. But
how has that happened?
It's crazy, eh? But I think
it's not like anyone thought that was coming.
No, shut up, Matt.
But, you can milk that one in the predictions podcast.
Yeah,
broken clock is right twice a day.
It's true. But with Vettel as well, I think it's important to note that his arc, maybe as a person, it's maybe one of the reasons why people look back at it so fondly. Is, obviously Vettel, for those that know him, always said, oh, he's a really good guy and this kind of thing, but maybe he was almost villainified because of his winning all the time and these 4 back-to-back championships, and now he's not winning, which breaks my heart, but it's true. He's kind of, people are talking about him for other reasons than just winning every single race again and again and again. And he's now using his platform to talk about, social and environmental changes that he wants to discuss and that kind of thing. And I think that's really like unlocked a special place for him in people's hearts. Whether Max will do the same later on in his career, I don't know. But I think that's one of the reasons why so many people now look back at Vettel's dominance with a real fondness and being like, yeah, do you know what? He was really good. Because at the time, I mean, like with the pictures that the drivers would take, he was getting booed. I mean, imagine if Vettel went onto a podium now and people booed him, everyone would be like, oh my gosh, what the hell are you doing? But and the whole Vettel finger that he did, which for audio listeners that might not know, that's going to sound really weird, but his celebration of just holding up this is your index finger, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, I did biology at school, everyone. But everyone was like, oh God, he's so annoying when he does that. I hate him, all this kind of stuff. And now as his send-off, everyone's doing it and looking back and being like, oh yeah, I remember when he did that. Oh God, that was so iconic. It's amazing how much time can change people's perception of things. So there you go. That's a very long answer to your question, Kian.
Amazing. Good stuff. There's a comment from Bankai in the chat. Hello, Bankai. It says, I'm super fine with Max Verstappen's domination this year. A lot of people were trash talking if he deserved winning over Lewis Hamilton last year. I think it's rather obvious now. Well, let's not talk about 2021. I think it's shut up a lot of the haters that said that, he couldn't win a world title properly or whatever, because he's shown again. I mean, both drivers deserve to win the championship in 2021. This year, Max Verstappen absolutely deserved to win the title. So he is a 2-time world champ. Who isn't a world champ and who haven't been world champions since 2007 are Ferrari. Let's get into my 3-word race review. Hype train derailed.
Season review.
That makes maybe we don't make hype train hoodies ever again for Ferrari, because look, watch them go fastest in testing and I'll be back. Don't you worry. But yes,
they love a fastest in testing.
Ferrari flags.
Give me more of that. I want that hopium, copium, whatever you want to call it. But yes, it's been a struggle to watch as a Ferrari fan for a few reasons. I think one is false hope. And the first 3 races of the season, Leclerc's in the lead of the championship by, was it 47? I think he was ahead of Verstappen at the time. And then Verstappen produced the best championship comeback ever and then won by 100 and whatever points you said, Tommy. So that's depressing. But also, yeah, I think it's just, as a Ferrari, I think it may well have been the hardest Ferrari fan year for a very long time, just purely because they looked like they could win a lot of races at the start of the year. I think I said at the very beginning of the podcast, of our podcast series at the start of the year, was like, Ferrari need to make the most of this car right now. They have to be scoring wins, podiums, not making many mistakes. And to be fair, at the end of the day, it didn't really matter. They could never have won the world title with the car that they had at the end of the year. But the fact that, especially Leclerc, kept getting pole, Ferrari had 12 poles this year. And to only score 4 victories.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah. We'll get into some questions, but what's your first thoughts on the hype train derailing, guys?
Well, you mentioned that it had all started since we did the hype train merchandise, but you could argue that it was actually Baby Grace that was the problem. So
I've already had words. I've had words with Grace 1-to-1. I said to her, don't you dare do that to a season ever again.
Yeah, no Christmas presents for you, Grace, otherwise. But yeah, poor Grace. She's just so innocent and has got no idea.
She's not innocent. There's no innocence there. She's ruined the entire season.
Baby.
Yeah, okay. Well, stop using your powers against Ferrari.
She knows.
They've got enough powers against themselves already. We don't need more.
True. But yeah, it's kind of a sad case because, like you say, with Ferrari, it is the saying of so close yet so far. Like, you almost felt like you had your fingertips on the world championship trophy at the start of the season and then slowly getting further back and more out of reach. I think the strategy, obviously, of Ferrari has been the big talking point of the year. Binotto's come in and kind of not really gone for like a full blame, like angry man shouting at everyone, making everybody fearful of their jobs if they make mistakes. But actually, sometimes as toxic as that behavior might be in a team, maybe that's the kind of thing that you need, because maybe Binotto's softer approach just means that, the championship's fallen apart and is not salvageable.
Am I right in saying that Toto Wolff is putting the W13 in the lobby of the Mercedes HQ?
I'm just going to say they do this every year. I don't get why he's making a big deal of this.
But I guess this one, that they didn't win the constructors. I guess the last 8 years.
But they put everyone in the reception. I've been fortunate.
Yeah, but they've won the last 8 years.
Yeah, but they won I guess they've won the last 8. So
8 years of constructors.
But so they're just going to put another car in the reception.
I guess they could technically leave the winning one in reception, but yeah, I know what you mean. Like, it's easy for them to go.
I mean,
this is a
big
reminder.
Space. If they don't put a car there, they're going to have a big flower arrangement or something to put something there instead of a car.
Last year's car. It's just a flower arrangement. We didn't want to put the rubbish car there.
Yeah,
it's funny that they put the car there. They're like, this is a reminder of like the bad times, and then literally, if you've ever been to Mercedes, just you could go 3 spaces to the right, and it's a wall of trophies. So
nice. Yeah. So sorry, Tommy, your point.
Yeah, for Ferrari, this, I've not hidden that I wanted Verstappen to win the title, but I think it's a shame that we didn't see Ferrari closer, because they're a legendary team. For me, I absolutely loved the start of the season, watching Verstappen, Leclerc going wheel to wheel. I mean, Bahrain and Saudi, what a setup that was for the World Championship, thinking we're going to get this every single race, them switching positions, having battles for the lead every single week. It was amazing. Ultimately, look, Ferrari didn't have the pace or the race pace basically to carry it on for the season. I mean, you look at the start of the season, all Leclerc could have done really is finish second to Max in a few races. Spain, Azerbaijan, he might have won and he retired, which was a huge amount of points. Winning. Yeah, Spain 100%. Azerbaijan is a bit more. He was definitely finished second. But anyway, when it gets to Silverstone, it's pretty much over, which is insane to think. And then obviously Max ends up winning pretty much every single Grand Prix. So I just hope that they come back and can actually, have a proper challenge, because it was great at the start to see Ferrari back at the front. It's where they belong. Maybe it's because I'm nostalgic and grew up in that era where Ferrari were really good, but it just feels right for Ferrari to be at the front, battling for victories and wins. So it was great to see, but sadly, just too many mistakes, too many. When it wasn't reliability issues, it was unbelievably poor strategy. And even if it would have only got them second, I just don't think it's been great for team morale, because they've become a bit of a joke, really. That's the most disheartening thing, is if they'd have just performed well, not made all these mistakes, Charles Leclerc would have probably finished 50 points behind Verstappen in the title, and you can say, what a great year. We pushed, we've gone from not even competing for wins to getting a few victories, finishing second in the World Championship comfortably, second in the Constructors. What a season. And actually, the biggest memory of the season will be the Ferrari pit wall clown meme. So, not good.
Yeah, sad times. Matt, you all right there?
Yeah, I just thought you were going to add to it, add to the misery, but
you suffered enough. That would be too mean.
Cool. All right. F1 Jake 16. Why did Ferrari only win 4 out of 22 races with the second fastest car? Arguably the first fastest car for a lot of the first few races, for sure. Well, Tommy's already touched upon it. Strategy was terrible. Leclerc definitely should have won Silverstone. Obviously, the car blowing up in Spain.
Why did they not pit Leclerc?
Not Spain, sorry.
Why did they not pit Leclerc?
Yeah, why didn't they pit Leclerc?
That's etched into my brain forever, thanks.
Yeah, and mine. Of course, Baku, debatable as to whether he would have won that or not. But as you say, Tommy, definitely finishing second. There's just so many. Hungary, he could have definitely won that, but they stuck him on hard tyres, which was statistically and in the data,
everyone
knew before they even put that tyre on. I'm getting back in that. I'm getting back in the zone here. I'm getting back to Hungary, and I'm like, but some of the strategy calls were so
Monaco, Miller just says in the chat.
Monaco, that should have been a Leclerc victory.
Yeah, that would have been a Leclerc
There's so
win.
many shoulda, woulda, couldas, but I think Ferrari should have at least come out of this season with 8 wins, no less than that, because whether it's through the reliability or strategy, and Leclerc, we'll see how he acts now moving forward. Are Ferrari going to get new leadership? That's something that's very much up in the air at the moment. Will that? Okay. All right. Well, look after my boy. All right. Good.
Yeah. I'm going to let him join Mercedes. Let him go somewhere else.
I think that changes do need to happen at Ferrari. 100% after this year. It's not good enough. Does it just need to be the figurehead that changes? I don't think so. There needs to be more within the strategy team, etc. But that's up for them to work out. I don't think anything else to really add to that, because we've already talked about strategy. Anything either of you want to touch upon?
Not really.
No, thank you, Tommy. Thanks. Cheers. Yeah, let's just move on. Never happened. Keith Cornelis, no joke. Why did Ferrari mess up strategy so many times? And why was Carlos the only driver to go against them? All right, thankfully, this is the final question about Ferrari. But this is an interesting point, that Charles Leclerc blindly trusted Ferrari this year, which, to be fair, okay, I can understand to a certain degree. A driver has to trust his team for certain decisions, because at the end of the day, the team have more data and more information than what the driver does in the cockpit. However, Carlos Sainz showed this year that going against your team sometimes is absolutely the right decision, especially if it feels like within the car, that's the wrong decision. No, I'm not going to do it. Carlos did it at Monaco, finished ahead of Leclerc. Carlos did it at Silverstone, won the race. And I'm happy that Carlos got a victory, but my God, was that the worst victory he could have ever won? Like, it was one of the worst wins, just because of all the mistakes he made and whatnot. But it worked out for him because he went against the team and made the right decision there. No, of course. Come on, get me in that pit. Lovely.
Yeah.
Right. Yes,
I'm going to win. Thank you.
No, I'm not going to hold up the rest of the field. Leclerc's an ailing donkey in front of me on old hard tyres. Leclerc's not the donkey, his car. You know what I mean?
No, you call him a donkey. It's too late now. I'm clipping that and sending that to Charles.
Leclerc definitely was the better of the two Ferrari drivers this year, but Sainz was better in having that tenacity and that, no, jog on, Ferrari. I'm not having one of your stupid strategy decisions. I'm going to take it into my own hands. And he gained from it. So I hope we see Leclerc's villain era next year because he needs to. He needs to not be such a lovely guy, which you don't want to take that away from him, but also whip that team into shape or you need to move somewhere else.
We did see some very sarcastic, snappy team radios from Charles towards the end of the year. So as long as he doesn't lose that over the winter break and brings that new attitude, I mean, if we are to believe the rumours are true and that Binotto is going and that maybe somebody like Fred Vasseur might take that position, although I think it'll be good generally for Ferrari. Like, don't forget, Fred and Charles have a history, obviously, through karting, through Formula 3, Sauber. Like, they've worked together in the past, which could be pro and it could be a con. Pro could be that he's seen how Charles works. He knows the potential that's there if he's given the resource and things around him. So that's good. Con might be that if he feels quite chummy with Fred, he might not bring the ruthlessness that we need from him to, like you say, whip that team into shape. He might feel like he's just in quite a comfortable place. Whereas if somebody completely brand new comes in, Charles can be like, right, this is what I want from the get-go. Bam, 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 bam. List is what he needs. So yeah, we'll see. But also, I'm glad that they mentioned Carlos in here because, yeah, I feel like Carlos this season, although it started off pretty poorly with obviously everything that happened in Australia, becoming besties with the gravel trap on so many occasions and all of these other things, his second half of the season was great. And also the fact that, yeah, he wasn't afraid to bite back and call the shots and that kind of thing. So well done, Carlos. It's just a shame that they had to be in that position in the first place.
Yeah, there's been moments we've not even mentioned that the in fact they put him on Inters, Charles Leclerc on Inters for qualifying as well. And there's so many moments where you were just like, do Ferrari actively dislike Charles? Why is he the one getting screwed all the time? But I think a lot of it is like we say, you know, Carlos was happy to fight back. And you're right, at the end of the season, you know, say if Leclerc hadn't been through that, we saw, I'm just remembering all these blunders now, and there was the one in Belgium, wasn't there, where they messed up fastest lap and all that kind of stuff, and so many more moments than I even remembered now, just thinking back at it. But in the last race in Abu Dhabi, Charles did, you know, get on the radio and be like, no, I need to stay out. This is what we're doing. And it got in P2. So, yeah, he definitely needs to do more of that.
Certainly does. I think that pretty much sums up all of the Ferrari sadness in a good 10-15 minutes. So enjoy that. Hopefully less of that next year would be beautiful. We now move on to talking about our best race of the season. Brazil?
Silverstone, or for me, it's.
I swear Brazil. We crowned Brazil as the best race of the season, and
there's too much in the middle. I think Brazil was the best weekend without shadow of a doubt. The best weekend.
It was more the weekend, wasn't it?
Because the sprint was epic as well, and you had Magnussen on pole in qualifying. I don't think you can deny that Brazil was the best weekend. In terms of racing, I did really like Saudi Arabia just for that battle with Leclerc. Unfortunately, ruined by luckily this didn't happen too much at the end, but the TV direction in that battle was absolutely appalling. But thankfully, well, there was still some annoyance, but never that bad again. For me, Saudi, Silverstone, Brazil, maybe Hungary. I don't know. There was a lot of good races, to be fair.
I'm just there like Silverstone. No.
Season. Kota was really good as well.
Silverstone's not my favourite. I wonder why.
Yeah.
There were some decent races, wasn't there? But
yeah, some pretty good races for a season.
Bahrain was decent.
Bahrain,
we had
it was great.
Switching with Leclerc and Max at the front, and so I'd say Bahrain gets a mention, but yeah, I think Saudi. It's unfortunate with Saudi because of obviously everything that was going on away from the racetrack. Should we put it like that? And there was even discussion: would we get the race in the first place? But yeah, it was a really good Grand Prix. Sort of a bit of everything in there. But yeah, I don't know. I love a street circuit, so maybe I'll just stick with Saudi as my favorite race. But yeah, definitely Brazil and Silverstone as well.
I think realistically, taking my Leclerc fanboyism out, yes, I think Silverstone had everything. Brazil was close and definitely the best weekend.
For P2 at Silverstone was really good. Some of the best racing I've seen. Fair play to a season, and this goes back to the very original point about has the regulations worked for a season that's been dominated by a single driver and won almost all the races. There's been probably like 6 or 7 very good races, I'd say, which is credit to the new regs, I'd say.
Thank goodness. Otherwise, this wouldn't be a very good season to reflect on.
No.
But yeah, okay. Well, I'll go with the British Grand Prix. It's are we all agreed with that then? I think best race weekend, 100% Brazil. Every best race weekend I can remember in years, to be honest with you, because it was just action throughout the entire weekend and sprint racing. Hey, look at you go, eh? Sprint racing, whoop.
Let's practice. Bring it on. Had to get
I'm surprised you haven't put a segment just to talk about.
I hate practice. My 3-word season review. No.
Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Question, Alfred Greenwoo9. What was the most shocking, exciting bit of the season?
Shocking bad, Japan. Just the handling, the tractor thing. Of
course, yes.
Shocking in terms of exciting, that battle for P2 at Silverstone. Just some of the best racing I've ever seen. And some will argue that it wasn't fair and people getting pushed off and they were too lenient on track limits. I just think it was absolutely superb.
It gave as good as they got, right? It was like, it was just pure racing. And
it was the IndyCar racing that I've been dreaming of since saying on this podcast since about 2019 that F1 needs to be more like IndyCar in terms of just let them push each other off. It's fine. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. And it was brilliant.
We get the yearly video go around, don't you, from Fuji, which I always bring up when it was Massa and Kubica, was it?
Yeah.
Fighting in the rain. And that is seen as such an epic battle because they're both just shoving each other off, but giving as good as they get. And it's kind of just seen as all right, fair enough. Like, it's not ridiculous. We're not talking shoving them in the wall, but it was, that's the kind of epic stuff. And again, yes, track limits, but also everyone looks at that as an epic moment because of just how hard they were racing and Hamilton going through, the amazing commentary. Yeah, that was a big moment that me and you, Tommy, experienced from the hotel room that we were doing our live Twitch watch along, and we heard the noise from the crowd, didn't we? All the way from our hotel.
Yeah, long way away.
Yeah, I would say for me, the most shocking has to be the Zhou. Well, just first lap of Silverstone, like the fact that Zhou getting flipped over, his roll hoop just being completely like sawed off with the contact on the floor. Thank goodness for the halo. And then, the fact that it rolled over, hit the catch fencing with the fans behind it. Like, I still would have been just fearful for my life if I was one of the fans in that grandstand there. I mean, I was lucky enough to be the other side of the circuit in the international paddock bit watching it. And the fact that the cars are so loud, like, we just didn't even see that happen. And it took for us to realize to zoom in on my phone, on my camera, to go, oh my God, there's a car behind the barrier. Like, it was just crazy. And then Albon obviously having his incident on that same lap, and then protesters on the track as well. Like, that just whole first lap of Silverstone was just insane. And then in terms of exciting, bit of a vibe change, I really enjoyed watching Fernando's come back from doing his airborne wheelie to finishing, was it P7 in the end? Because he kept the pace. That was exciting to watch. What about you guys? Have you got any other suggestions?
Well,
some people
my most exciting moment of the year, hands down, has to be Nicholas Latifi going fastest in Sector 1 in Hungary.
Yeah, that was good.
20th.
No,
But also,
it was him
it's
getting top of FP3.
Yeah, P1 in FP3 was.
No. Purple
Oh
in
my God.
Q1, Sector 1,
Yeah.
and then qualifying 20th. That's one of my favourite moments of the year by
It
far.
was
Makes me
funny.
laugh every
Ran
time
down
I
the
see
wrong
that
way in an
screenshot.
escape.
We didn't-
an escape road.
We didn't get too many underdog moments with the whole podium thing, but I think obviously Magnussen getting pole is just insane to think. Like, if
I
you'd
think
have
that
said
was
at the
one of the most
start of the
exciting
year, I guess you could argue it's shocking as well. Like, if you'd have told us that we'd get a Magnussen pole, insane in a hat. First, you'd be like, wait, who's Magnussen driving for? Because he wasn't even there at the start of the year, which is wild to think about. It feels like forever ago. And then I will also throw into the mix that when Alonso got P2 Canada, that was because that was just, just supreme driving, and it was just epic when he got out the car and cheering and stuff. Someone made a good point. The summer break was a shocking bit of the season. No one saw that coming in terms of just the absolute chaos of silly season. If we're talking about off-track moments, one of the most insane, shocking, exciting silly seasons I've ever seen. If you'd have looked at if you'd have said before Alonso moved that we're going to get Alonso in an Aston Martin, Piastri in a McLaren, Nick de Vries in an AlphaTauri, I'd be like, what on earth is going on? Gasly at Alpine, like, no one saw that coming. Absolutely insane. So
the most shocking moment off track absolutely is that Piastri tweet. I think everyone was like, huh?
Literally got on the phone to you, Matt. I was like, oh my God, we need to get on Twitch right now.
What? Yeah, and then we had the most insane live stream ever talking about that, and it was just everyone was like, yo, what? Piastri's told Alpine that it was brilliant. Definitely one of the most shocking things was that. Anything else that was exciting?
I mean, there's a Norris podium, which I feel like everyone forgets about in Imola.
Yeah, I mean, that was brilliant.
That was pretty good. So
it's mad that he was the only one, wasn't it? That got there. I think I'm still, in terms of like shocking and exciting. I know we mentioned about being one of our favorite races. The DRS chicken between Leclerc and Verstappen was unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. It was so exciting. It was so bizarre to watch, and it was obviously like controversial and divided a lot of people whether it was a good thing for F1 or it was a bad thing. Was it a bit farcical? Was it epic? But it was unbelievable to watch.
I think we're forgetting one shocking thing as well, and that was Red Bull breaching the cost cap. And
yes, Max for catering
as well.
The
cost cap and all that.
Yeah.
Adrian Stewie still will Adrian
forever. Stewie, I forgot about that.
That's my favourite thing to come out of the whole season.
Adrian Stewie. Good stuff. I think that's quite a few moments that we've had over this year. I wonder what next year we'll have in store for us. Team WTF1 member Oliver Buckers. Who were the most impressive and underwhelming teams this season? Impressive would have to go to Alfa Romeo.
Maybe they finished
Yeah.
sixth, which is impressive. Oh wow! I don't think I quite computed that they finished on identical points, but they had better results.
That was the whole thing, wasn't it? Because
Vettel racing Ricciardo at the end
Vettel was trying to get. Yeah, there you go.
People
are saying Haas
also,
but they finished 8th. They made a step forward, but I still feel like it was a missed opportunity considering where they were at the start of the year and how hard they fell off.
They could easily have been 6th, I'd say. I guess, it's a difficult one because I guess Red Bull, we didn't expect Red Bull to maybe dominate quite as much. There's a lot of talk that they maybe put so much into 2021 to try and finally beat Mercedes that they wouldn't be the team, that they'd be the ones playing catch up.
It was Mercedes that fell off.
And it was Mercedes that fell off, which I guess leads us on to underwhelming, which surely AlphaTauri is one, but you've got to go for Mercedes surely, because I don't think any of us would have predicted that they'd have only got one win and Hamilton would not win a race.
No one would predict Mercedes finishing third.
Well, not win a race. I was more what I was
You're going to live off this prediction for the end of time, aren't you?
Absolutely. Yes. I literally got something right for a change, and I'm absolutely milking it. And to be fair, I did say that Mercedes will definitely win a race at some point this year. Did I not? And Tommy were like, no. And it can't happen now. Like, when's it going to happen? There's only 4 or 5 races to go. Boom! George Russell enters the chat. So I believed in them. Tommy's stifling telling me to F off, I think, at this point. But look, I'm just enjoying getting something right for a change. Stroke Frank. It's okay. You won the championship, Tommy. It's fine.
I won the championship.
Yes.
I was the star of the show.
Yeah,
it's got to be, I think, underwhelming. McLaren also underwhelmed.
Yeah.
If you've got to think that there was talk that could they be in the mix of those top teams, and ended up nearly 400 points behind second.
When are we seeing your Alpine merch?
I was going to say, how's the Alpine merch going on?
I'm going to get some in the Black Friday, so
yeah,
we'll get that some kind of end of season thing.
How many?
How about for the next podcast?
How many pieces of merch are we talking?
The whole outfit.
2 or 3.
No.
What do you mean no? I'm
not
getting a hot water bottle or anything. Like, I've got.
Yes, you can sleep with Alonso at night. That'll be lovely, won't it?
That's Tommy's dreams right there.
Yeah, it literally is, probably.
God's sake. I'm not denying it. Right.
Oh.
There you go. Hot water bottles soon come. Lovely. Right. Have we covered that? I think we have.
I think we have, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about Tommy betting Alonso anymore, please. Can we change the subject?
Okay, let's move on. We've got to pick one highlight of the season. Oh, goodness. I have definitely prepared this one. Okay, my highlight of the season is Leclerc leading the championship after 3 rounds by 43 points. The end.
Peak early.
That's where the championship ended. It was a 3-race
in your
season.
heart, and yeah.
I think Leclerc winning the first race of the season felt like it was. I was like, oh my god, we're here. Ferrari 1-2. What's going on? And that I want to capture that moment forever, because it didn't last long.
That is fair. Oh, highlight. I mean, I just feel like I'm going to repeat something that I've already said, so I want to come up with something better, but I haven't really thought of anything.
We kind of covered everything. I think we covered everything in the moment, didn't we? Like, most shocking or exciting. It's hard to
like a personal highlight,
Nick de Vries. Nick de Vries getting a point. There you go. Or 2 points.
Tell me your Formula A fan.
We haven't mentioned that.
We haven't mentioned it. Fair play.
It might not be my highlight of the season, but it is.
It's a highlight.
It's a highlight, and we haven't talked about it. So there we go.
Yeah. So look, I'm letting my bias pick my one highlight here, which is about Leclerc. It's fine. If you want to do something about Esti Besti, that's okay. Maybe him beating Alonso in the championship. There you go. He beat Fernando Alonso, a 2-time world champion, potentially the greatest of all time.
That's because Fernando's washed, so I'm kidding.
Wow.
That was a joke before the Alonso stats come after me. No, please. I love Fernando.
Tommy will be clipping
not as much as Tommy.
On his Alonso burner.
Yeah. One highlight of the season. It's got to be maybe Magnussen pole, because it's just so unbelievable that Haas got pole. Or Alonso's P2 in Canada, or the Saudi battle.
I'm glad you picked.
Yeah.
I
can't. One moment. Okay, I'm going to go for Verstappen, Leclerc. Yeah, no, I'm going to go for Verstappen and Leclerc. The Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, the final laps of that was incredible, and I think it was just it set up not only an exciting season that we unfortunately didn't have, but in terms of like a future between those two. And I hope we see a lot more of it, because it was incredible, fair racing, and just one of the most insane things I've ever seen, that whole DRS chicken thing. I was up on my feet. Like, it's one of those like where you stand up from the sofa and get really close to your telly and just shouting at the TV. It was mad.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I think at the time I was like, oh, this DRS chicken thing, I'm not sure if it's... I've changed my mind. I want to see it.
I thought it was a bit dangerous at the time. I was like...
It was a little bit dangerous, and I think we kind of assessed it that way. But when you actually look at the drama and the vibes that it gave us when we were watching, it was amazing. It was sensational to watch.
Vettel led a lap as well at one point. Don't forget about that, in Kota.
Vettel had a what?
He led a lap.
He did
at one
lead
point.
a lap.
So that was nice. Maybe not the highlight of the whole season, but...
I think he led, Mick Schumacher led for half a tenth.
0.1 of a second, yeah.
That was true. Good. That was in Japan, wasn't it? I think it was, on his on his wet
Got
tyres,
left
just
on the
staying
wets
out there
and everyone on
forever. And also, we didn't even mention there's the shocking moment Verstappen and Hamilton crashing in Brazil. That was, of course, another shocking moment.
Was it shocking?
Yeah.
Was it surprising?
The most definitely incident happening of the year goes to Verstappen and Hamilton making contact. Okay. Big shout out now to Laura Barrera, who has tallied up our WTF1 podcast predictions and the results. They are in fourth place, because there's myself, Katy, Tommy, and the fans. In fourth place, there'll be no surprise to see Tom Bellingham with 9.5 points. Congratulations, Tommy, for finishing
Thank
fourth. In third place, me, whatever, 11, don't care. In second place, you would think the fans have they get 3 predictions every single week, but the fans came in second with 11.5 points, which means the winner with 13.5 points. She said for half the season we'd just go racing, and those were the predictions she made. It was Katy. No, well done.
You're like
Katy.
Kanye West trying to take over Taylor Swift's speech.
Katy, congratulations on winning the prediction 2022 championship.
So many of Katy's prediction points came in like quite a quick spell at the end, where she was just absolutely, you're getting loads in from weather delays, fans dressed up in things.
Yeah, it was
Ricardo cowboy hat. You absolutely smashed it at the end, and ended up well clear. It's actually funny because Laura's put together. I think you even alluded to this one. There's some relevant information for some of them, and there's some amusing moments that.
Please read some out.
Okay. So for the predictions of the Miami Grand Prix, Matt tried to argue that Sainz getting hit in the head and having an incident in
what was the prediction first? What was the prediction first?
That counts as Sainz having a bad weekend. Tommy and Katy, Tommy and Katy disagreed since he got on the podium. No points.
So good.
There was Tommy tried to change his Mercedes win prediction live. It was shameless. No points were given.
What was that for?
That was which race? What race was that? It was. So I'm trying to go across to see. It was France. Oh yeah, because people thought Paul Ricard was going to be a good one.
Tommy.
Matt tries to get half a point for his Leclerc prediction. Last time I checked, P2 is not getting pole.
It was so close, good. I think it was a few thousands.
It was.
These are amazing.
My highlight of the season was the one where I made the podium prediction for 1 point, was challenged to give the actual order and got 2 points.
Yeah, that was
and then I ruined it because the next one it says Tommy tried the biggest stretch of the season, saying George collided. This was my prediction, was Russell will be involved in another collision, and I said that George collided with his engineer for the strategy, and asked for half a point, which none were given.
Oh
no! Do we not give that to him?
Absolutely not.
These are so good.
Yeah, there's some funny stuff in there.
I'm enjoying this.
Matt said the Honda sticker counted as a special livery. Half a point was given. I can't believe we gave half a point for that one. Absolutely not. I think that's most of it. Yeah, there's some good things in there. Thank you, Laura. Thank you,
Laura. Thank you, Laura, for that.
Thanks, Laura.
And congratulations, Katy. Any speech? I've seen a Twitch chat asking for a speech. So, what do you want to say to all the fans out there?
Thank you all for your support in tagging me in things that happened that I said, like the drivers in full race suits, Ricardo with a hat, the go-kart in Spa. I think the go-kart in Spa has to be the best prediction of the year.
When that Zoom came in, I was absolutely fuming. Me and Tommy were live on Twitch for the race.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, for God, oh no, they're zooming in as well. We couldn't even argue that it was like, because we said, didn't we, in the podcast, no, it has to be a proper zoom in of the racing. And lo and behold,
there it was.
Thank you.
Thank you, TV direction. The best 10 quid I ever spent. No, I'm joking. I did not pay the TV direction to show that. But yeah, so that was awesome. But yeah, thanks, guys. That's
well done.
Well done.
Next year, try and defend my
Congratulations.
crown.
You will indeed. Right. That is pretty much it for the end of season review podcast. I'm sure there'll be plenty of stuff that you go, why didn't you talk about this? Why didn't you? I mean, it's not a 12-hour podcast. And we still have lots to reflect on, as we will be doing another podcast for the ABCDEF1 driver ratings to look at it as a whole. Of course, we did
first and last.
Yeah.
That's probably the most predictable 20 and first, but the middle has got some surprises. So
yeah, because we did
stay
it
tuned for that
halfway
one.
through the season. Let's see how it changed come the end. So we'll discuss more in depth each driver's season then. So look forward to that. Thank you to everyone on Twitch watching us live, WTF1 official. If you don't follow us already, thank you, audio listeners. It's been a pleasure as always to have us in your ears. And if you're watching on video on YouTube, again, lots of love. It's been a pleasure to bring you every single one of these race podcasts. And I'm going to class this one as kind of a race podcast because we've been talking about the
said
racing.
race review a few times.
Yeah, I have. So it's been awesome to bring you these podcasts. We've genuinely enjoyed every single moment. I feel like next year I need to stretch more for these half a points just so that we can get more Laura comments of things that we've tried that are absolutely ridiculous. But that is awesome. Plenty of stuff to reflect on ABCDF1, and we've got other podcasts coming as well. So don't worry, the content does not end here just because there's 97 days to go until the next race. Thank you, everybody. Hashtag WTF1 podcast if you want to get involved in the discussion. Thank you to Elgato for sponsoring this podcast. And that is it. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.